Yeah, thank you, Sean. The music there, thank you for that. Thank you for the music. That's what we've got. And delighted to have with me in studio Tony Meleady of Wildlife Matters. You've been here before, Tony. Nice to see you. Welcome.
Yes,
We've managed to extricate you from the joys of your garden this morning. You're often out there at the very crack of dawn. You know, you hear see the first light of day and the first song of the birds.
Yeah, there's plenty of happening in the garden. I'd be up early, and the garden is just full of little frogs at the moment because they've all come out of the pond there 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
So they're leaping and jumping everywhere, and there's plenty going on, and it's a great time to catch slugs as well, get them off me plants.
Yeah, absolutely. But your little Molly, your daughter, Molly, my granddaughter, Molly is there, and she's getting so much fun out of the garden. It's just such a wonderful thing for children, and more people, I rather feel, should get their children into the garden, and you make your own little paradise.
Yeah, it's a fabulous place for the kids now. It's a great thing for them in their future as well. And she loves the garden. She's out in it from as soon as she gets up. All she wants to do is go out in the garden and until she comes in at night time.
It's beautiful
if she's not out of the house. But saying that, yesterday I had her out in the garden. I had lots of sun cream on her. I was walking around town the day before, and there's a couple of little kids, and they're badly burnt. So just people, if you're out there, just always remember the bloody sun cream for the kids.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's a big factor. 30 anyway.
Yeah, for the
get
small
the
kids,
high
you know?
Get the high sun, because that's when things start to go wrong with the damage to the skin at an early age and all of that. Actually, it was marvellous. There's a tree in the garden, an old tree that came apart and fell down. It decided to fall. It had seen its day. It was an old apple tree, and it's gone now. A gnarled bark and a gnarled trunk, a gnarled bark on a gnarled trunk, and there it is.
But you
made Thank you very much indeed. But you made some good use of it.
Yeah. Well, I actually seen that tree fall down. It nearly fell on my partner root, and it's the first time in my life I ever seen a tree fall naturally, and we were lucky enough to be in the garden, and it did make noise.
Yeah. Does a tree make noise? But it doesn't make noise if it's in the middle of the Sahara.
No, well,
so there you go.
That's debatable.
So it fell down. What have you done with it to make it?
Well, I put it in the corner of the garden. Someday you might come and take it, get a couple of shots of it, but it's down the corner with some hawthorn and blackberry, and you'd have to look to see it. And I got these little eyes and a nose out of a shop, and I put them on it especially for trees, and it looks like a little tent or something in the end of the garden.
It works. Yeah, it really works. I promise you that.
Molly likes it, you know.
She loves it, surely. The potatoes you're growing in the little raised bed, the potatoes I know of would have had white flowers when they're coming into harvest time, but yours have pink flowers.
They're purple and yellow. Yeah.
What's that about? What sort of?
They're just different breed of potatoes. Yeah. Like, you can get so many different breeds nowadays compared to what you used to be able to get, you know. And like the roosters and that would have that coloured flower and things like that, you know. But the potatoes, I put them potatoes down in March, and for the earlies they should be ready in June. I went to dig them up there the other day, and they're still very, very small. It's all a month behind still because of the.
Does small mean a greater flavour?
Well, it can do, yeah, but they're small and they're small, you know. There's marbles and there's, a forkful, you know. So they're still growing, you know. I was down in Mayo at the weekend, and a friend of mine down there said he put down his in February, and they were a month behind as well, you know.
Mayo was a kind of pilgrimage for you.
Yeah, well, I spent 17 years of my life down there, living on an island, looking after wildlife and things, you know. So
you lost a good friend down there to the sea.
I did, yeah. One of my best mates, Tommy Gibbons. Yeah, God rest him. It was his anniversary the other day. 4 years passed away, and we went down and we had a mass in his front garden, and there's over 100 people in the garden. Like, had to get a boat over to the island, which is a great tribute to the man, because so many people are still coming, and other people wanted to come but couldn't get them over in the boats, you know. But it was very nice, very pleasant weekend.
Are you an islander at heart?
I wish I was in my heart, yes, without a doubt. I miss the sea dreadfully, I do, yeah, because I spent a lot of time on ships and that as well. So
I know this feeling, I know this feeling.
I miss it.
Yeah. So you have frogs in the garden at the moment. You have your strawberries, your raspberries. It's there for everyone to do, really, isn't it?
It's very, very simple to do. It's I mean, if anybody had any questions about growing things, they could always email me, and I'd be quite happy to. I'd even go out for a garden and give them advice if they wanted to, because I like to bring on the more. As I said before, I used to do a bit of landscaping as well, and it was all hard landscaping, and I learned from my mistakes that you need to bring the gardens back to more wilderness in the garden for the wildlife. So the gardens, if anybody asked me to do work on the garden or advice, I'd more promote native shrubs and native hedgerow into the garden and plants like that that attract the bumblebees and the
You mentioned hard landscaping. What's hard landscaping?
Just gives an awful pain in your back.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of digging. No, I'm talking about cobble lock drives and
all very formal.
Yeah, with decks and big patios and things like that. You know, things that would take the wildness out of a garden. Yeah. And people are all into these different types of shrubs as a trend, where they'd have shrubs that wouldn't support native wildlife as much. You know, you wouldn't. And it's just taking the wildlife out of a lot of gardens, and also the drainage as well.
Yeah. You've been through the business of keeping chickens in the garden, and as it turned out, at the end of the day, you were quite glad to get rid of them when it happened. Because people don't really realize, who don't have experience, that a couple of chickens or a half a dozen chickens in a garden turns that part of the garden into a wet waterland of just
well, there is a lot of work keeping chickens. I had 3 chickens that you dropped on my doorstep one day, and I had them in a nice pen, and everything was quite large, but I found it was too close to the house. My garden isn't very big, and it was a bit too close to the house. No matter how much you clean them, they attract a lot of flies into the garden, and they were coming down into the house, and Molly is only small, but it was great to see the chickens running around the garden, but they will scratch up the whole garden and they'll destroy your garden.
Destroy it.
You know,
and of course, Mr. Fox, you have to be careful of. If you have,
for sure.
But maybe Mr. Fox could be your ally if the chickens are bringing too many flies around. You see, that would be the thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
But
well, caught the news during the week that across the water the cull of badgers is due, and they're going to. It's a nighttime shoot using powerful rifles. And trained shooters will be there to take the badgers out. And people are saying over there, some people are saying it's not a particularly good idea, because people close to towns and whatever else in fields shooting with high-powered rifles at badgers, you don't know where the shot's going to go.
Well, it's took off on the 1st of June of this year, and they're trained marksmen that are going to do it. That's what they say. It's not just your local farmer going out and shooting them. And it's happening in 2 areas. It's happening in West Gloucestershire and West Somerset, where there's a high concentration of TB, bovine TB in cattle. And they're trying to cull the badgers to see if it'll make any difference. Now, they've tried this before in different ways, and it never made any difference. If you upset a badger set, and the badgers will move off. If they escape, they'll move off and form another set or join up with another set. And if they have any form of TB, they'll just spread it to that set.
Spreading it in that way.
You're moving it out from the concentration of the area. But I can understand if you're a farmer why they'd want to do it. But they're culling, say, 5,000 badgers in a 6-week period. So I think in Gloucestershire, they're taking out 70 badgers a day and 50 in Dorset. Or thereabouts, you know, it's a big cull.
It's a big cull.
And they're doing it with the police. They're not people just walking around shooting through hedges. They have to look at the undergrowth and what's around and everything like that. Like, it's not a crazed.
Well, one hopes that you're right. One hopes that that's what's happening. But my experience of officialdom doesn't always fill me with confidence. And as I say, I hope you're right. So the frogs are doing well in the garden.
Yeah.
How big are they now?
Fingernail, yeah, some of them, and there is still 1 or 2 tadpoles in the pond, and they haven't even formed legs.
Yeah.
And the tadpoles, they'll just grow into larger and larger tadpoles. They don't actually turn into a frog, you know.
Wow, so why is that? Why would a tadpole want to remain as a tadpole all his life?
Just some defect deficiency in their genes or something, maybe, or something, you know.
So
I'm sure he aspires to become a frog and a prince someday.
I want to be a frog when I want to be a frog. I want to be a frog. I think so. Yeah, I want to be a frog. Absolutely. That's what the tadpole says. Thanks for coming in.
No problem, it's been
You're
a pleasure.
a good man. Sean has stood by with the orchestra, in the orchestra pit. He's got the baton up at the moment. The first violin is coming in there. The oboist is there. Oh yes, there they are. It's all set to go. Sean, if not that, something else, baby.